Hey guys, today we step into a mindset shift that has the power to change the way you look at every single hour you live. Imagine the swirl of your daily life, the messages flooding your phone, the endless list of tasks waiting for you, the constant feeling that no matter how much you do, you are always behind. You push through, you hustle, you run faster. And yet there's that nagging whisper. Is all this effort actually moving me forward? Here's the reality check. Most of it isn't. Most of what you do is busy work, noise, movement that creates the illusion of progress without producing much in return. And yet hidden inside the chaos is a smaller, quieter set of actions, the ones that really matter, the ones that generate results far beyond their size. That is where your breakthrough lies, and that's the path we're walking together. You begin by understanding that the world has always been uneven. A few crops yield the majority of harvests. A handful of clients make up most of a company's revenue. And in your own life, just a sliver of your activities are responsible for most of your success and satisfaction. This isn't new. It's been observed for more than a century. But what changes everything is when you stop treating it as a curious fact and start using it as a guiding principle. You realize you don't have to scatter your energy like confetti. You don't have to fight tooth and nail for every scrap of progress. You can focus on the few things that truly matter and let the rest fade away. Picture your day as a crowded street market. There are stalls everywhere, bright colors, voices shouting, 100 directions tugging at you. If you try to glance at everything, you'll leave exhausted with nothing meaningful to show for it. But if you know exactly which two stalls hold the treasures you came for, you walk with intention, you arrive lighter, and you walk away richer. That is the seed of the 80-20 principle. When you apply this way of thinking to your career, you stop measuring success by hours worked or emails sent. Instead, you ask, which clients or projects bring the greatest return? Which skills set me apart in ways that ripple through every opportunity? You may realize that the presentation you spent a single day perfecting did more to advance your career than the 2 weeks you lost to endless meetings. Suddenly, you see the truth. Output is not proportional to input, and that is liberating. Take a moment to recall a time when you worked incredibly hard, pouring in hours, but the result was disappointing. Now compare it to a moment when you made a small effort, one clear email, one brave conversation, one well-placed decision that opened huge doors for you. Those memories are proof that the world rewards focus, not frenzy. You've already tasted the principle in your own life. You just may not have named it yet. The deeper you look, the more examples you see. Think about relationships. Out of all the people you know, only a handful truly lift you, encourage you, and remind you of your best self. Those few conversations carry more joy than dozens of shallow interactions. Think about learning. You may read 10 books, but 1 or 2 reshape your entire perspective. Think about health. A few consistent habits, sleep, movement, hydration, matter infinitely more than dozens of supplements or occasional crash diets. The imbalance is everywhere, waiting for you to notice. Now let's turn this observation into action. First, you start with awareness. Track your week. Write down where your time goes, where your energy goes, where your money goes. Be honest, even when it stings. At the end of that week, look at the list with clear eyes. Which 20% of actions brought you genuine results, progress, or joy? Which 80% were just filler? You may discover that the hour you spent coaching a teammate created more value than the 5 hours you spent on reports, or that the one dinner with a close friend gave you more fulfillment than an entire weekend of casual hangouts. Awareness is your compass. Second, you make decisions differently. Instead of asking, "What can I do?" you ask, "What is worth doing?" Instead of thinking, "What's urgent right now?" you ask, "What creates lasting impact?" This simple shift reorders your entire day. You may stop chasing every notification and start carving out hours for deep work. You may decide that a single bold move, like pitching a new idea to your boss, matters more than clearing your inbox. Third, you allow yourself to let go. This is the hardest step because our culture worships busyness. You fear that if you don't do everything, you're falling behind. But the opposite is true. Every time you release something trivial, you make space for what truly counts. Imagine clearing your desk of clutter so your most important document finally has room to breathe. That is what you do with your time and energy. You choose the few that matter and let the rest go. Let's ground this in a story. Imagine Alex, a young entrepreneur juggling 10 different marketing strategies for his small business: social media ads, email newsletters, blog posts, podcasts, networking events, you name it. He is exhausted and barely keeping up. Then he analyzes his results and realizes that 80% of his customers come from just 2 sources: referrals and a single ad campaign. Everything else adds little. So he makes the bold choice to drop the rest, pouring his energy into nurturing referrals and perfecting that one campaign. Within months, his business doubles, and he feels lighter than ever. That is the power of seeds carefully planted. You can do the same. Maybe for you, it's not a business, but your health. You spend hours reading conflicting advice, trying trendy workouts, buying supplements. Yet if you look closely, the mornings you go for a simple run and the nights you get 7 hours of sleep do more for your energy than all the extras combined. Once you see this, you can focus on the vital few, and your results skyrocket without extra struggle. Here's a practical exercise. Write down 10 things you do regularly in any area of your life: work, health, relationships. Then circle the 2 that give you the most benefit. Now imagine doubling your effort on just those 2. What could change in 6 months? That visualization alone will wake you up to the possibilities. The beauty of this principle is that it's not about perfection. You don't need to get the ratio exactly right. Life isn't a math test. It's about recognizing patterns of imbalance and leaning into them wisely. Sometimes it will look like 70-30, sometimes 90-10. What matters is that you stop treating every task as equal and start honoring the few that matter most. And let's be honest, part of you already knows this. You've felt the futility of running in circles, pouring energy into things that don't move the needle. You've also felt the thrill of doing one small thing that changes everything. This isn't a foreign concept. It's the hidden rhythm of your life that you're finally choosing to dance to consciously. What happens when you commit to this way of thinking? First, your stress decreases. You stop trying to do it all and finally allow yourself to do what counts. Second, your confidence rises. You see real results from your focused actions, which motivates you to continue. Third, your time frees up. You realize you can actually have space for rest, creativity, and joy because you are no longer wasting yourself on the trivial. Imagine the shift in identity. You stop being the person who is always busy, but rarely satisfied. You become the person who seems calm, yet incredibly effective. The one people admire because you achieve more without looking frantic. That can be you. And it begins with planting the seed of this mindset right now. Close your eyes and picture tomorrow morning. Instead of grabbing your phone and drowning in notifications, you start by asking, what is the one action today that would make the biggest difference? Then you focus on it, protect it, and give it your best energy. By evening, even if you've done little else, you feel accomplished. Multiply that by weeks, by months, by years, and you've built a life of impact. This is your invitation to stop scattering and start focusing. To recognize that most of what you chase doesn't matter, and that's okay. You only need a few things, the vital few. And when you give them your heart and focus, they give back far more than you ever imagined. This is the soil in which we're planting. The 80-20 principle isn't just a trick. It's a new lens, a new way of living. You're stepping into it now, and from this moment forward, your effort will carry more weight, your time will carry more meaning, and your life will carry more joy. You've already begun to feel the shift, the realization that not everything you do is equal, that a few decisions and actions matter far more than the rest. Now it's time to turn that awareness into a sharper practice. You're going to discover your vital few, the small set of tasks, relationships, and commitments that create a disproportionate impact in your life. This is where clarity begins to shape your choices, and clarity always leads to power. Think about your life right now as if it were a garden. You may have dozens of plants growing, but only a handful produce real fruit. The rest drink your water, take your sunlight, and crowd your soil. If you keep tending them all equally, you exhaust yourself and still feel hungry. But if you learn which plants are the most fruitful and focus your care there, your harvest grows richer, even while your effort decreases. That's the essence of finding your vital few. Start with your work. Look at all the responsibilities that fill your days: meetings, reports, emails, projects, side conversations. If you're honest, you know that not all of them drive your progress. Maybe it's one client who accounts for most of your income. Maybe it's one skill that has led to your promotions. Maybe it's a single project that brought recognition, while 5 others barely moved the needle. The vital few hide in plain sight. To find them, you need to pause, observe, and measure outcomes rather than hours. Here's an example. Imagine a teacher named Maya. She spends her time grading papers, planning lessons, answering emails, attending endless staff meetings. But when she looks closely, she notices that the biggest improvements in her students' performance come from just 2 things: the 5 minutes of personal feedback she gives after class, and the creative projects she designs once a month. Those 2 actions create more growth than dozens of worksheets and meetings combined. Once she realizes this, she decides to protect and expand those moments, even if it means saying no to some of the smaller, less effective demands. Her students thrive, and she feels energized again. That's what happens when you spot your vital few. Now, shift your lens to relationships. Out of all the people in your life, who truly matter? You probably know instinctively. They're the ones who make you feel stronger, calmer, more yourself. They're the voices you remember when you succeed or when you struggle. If you map your relationships, you may see that a small circle gives you most of your joy and stability, while many others drain you or fade into the background. It doesn't mean you cut everyone else away, but it does mean you choose to invest deeply, where the return is life-changing. Consider Daniel, a college student who feels stretched thin by dozens of social obligations, clubs, group chats, parties, acquaintances. He often feels lonely, despite being surrounded by people. When he reflects, he realizes that 3 friends actually make the difference. One who challenges him to grow, one who listens without judgment, and one who shares his passion for music. He decides to prioritize time with them instead of scattering himself across shallow connections. Suddenly, his sense of belonging skyrockets, not because he's doing more, but because he's focusing on his vital few relationships. This same principle applies to personal activities. Out of all the hobbies, habits, and routines in your life, which ones bring you the most renewal, joy, or growth? Maybe reading 1 book a month inspires you more than hours of scrolling through feeds. Maybe a 20-minute walk clears your mind better than a dozen apps promising productivity. Maybe cooking a single healthy meal each day has more impact than following 5 different diets. You already know what refreshes you. You just need to give it consistent space. To identify your vital few, begin with reflection. Ask yourself, what are my most important goals? Then trace backward. Which actions actually move me toward those goals? You may be surprised to find that the things you've been told are essential aren't really moving the needle for you. That's okay. This is about your reality, not someone else's prescription. Here's a concrete exercise. Track your time for 1 week. Write down what you do each hour and how you feel afterward. At the end of the week, look for patterns. Which activities consistently left you energized, productive, or fulfilled? Which ones drained you or left you indifferent? Circle the former. These are likely your vital few. Then ask, how can I expand them, protect them, and make them central to my life? The process doesn't stop there. You also need to test and refine. Sometimes what feels vital isn't, and what feels small grows into something powerful over time. Be curious, experiment, drop something that seems unproductive, and watch what happens. Double down on something promising and see if results multiply. Treat your life like a living lab, where you're always testing for what gives the greatest return. Let's explore another story. Consider Olivia, a software developer. She realized she spent half her week debugging minor issues and only a few hours each week building new features. But when she looked at her career growth, she saw that the new features, not the debugging, earned her promotions, respect, and satisfaction. She decided to automate part of her debugging process and delegate the rest, freeing her time to focus on building. Within a year, she became a lead developer, not because she worked longer, but because she poured her energy into the vital few tasks that showcased her strengths. You can imagine how different life feels once you start focusing this way. Your calendar looks less crowded, but your results look brighter. You stop feeling like a hamster on a wheel and start feeling like an archer, hitting targets with precision. The more you practice, the sharper your aim becomes. Of course, this requires courage. It's easy to stay busy with trivial tasks because they feel safe. They're familiar. They give the illusion of progress. And no one will criticize you for answering every email or attending every meeting. But it takes bravery to say, this is what matters, and I'm choosing to invest here. It takes bravery to protect your vital few, even when others question your choices. Yet the rewards, clarity, progress, peace, are worth it. Let me give you another lens. Imagine your life as a jar, with big rocks, pebbles, and sand. The big rocks are your vital few, your most important commitments and values. The pebbles are useful, but less critical. The sand is the trivial many, little tasks, distractions, noise. If you fill the jar with sand first, there's no space for rocks. But if you place the rocks first, the pebbles and sand can fit around them. This is more than a metaphor. It's a daily practice. Each morning you decide, will I fill my day with sand, or will I protect space for the rocks? The moment you make this decision consistently, you'll notice your life shift. Progress will feel smoother. Joy will come more easily. Even challenges will feel purposeful because they're tied to what matters. That's the promise of identifying your vital few. Here's your challenge. Tonight, take out a notebook and list 10 things you regularly do in your work, relationships, and personal time. Then ask, if I could only keep 2, which ones would I keep? Circle them. Those are your starting point. Tomorrow, commit to giving those 2 more attention. It may feel small, but remember, small seeds create large trees. And remember this truth: your time, energy, and attention are finite. You can't give them to everything. But if you give them to the right things, the few that matter, you won't need to. You'll start seeing extraordinary results with less struggle, and you'll wonder why you ever lived any other way. The power is already in your hands. You're not waiting for permission. You're choosing to see clearly, to act deliberately, to honor the vital few. And once you do, the rest of your journey begins to align. You've begun to notice the treasures hidden in your life, the vital few activities, relationships, and commitments that deliver most of your joy and results. But clarity about what matters is only half the story. To make room for those treasures, you must also deal with everything that doesn't. This means learning to recognize and release the trivial many, those countless distractions that crowd your time and drain your energy without giving you much in return. Imagine your day as a crowded backpack. Every morning, you sling it on your shoulders. Some items are essential: your water, your map, your tools. But over time, you've stuffed it with trinkets, scraps, and things you don't need. It grows heavier, slowing you down. The journey becomes painful, not because the path is impossible, but because you're carrying far too much. The trivial many are those unnecessary weights. They disguise themselves as obligations, habits, or just-in-case items. But when you put them down, you suddenly move with freedom. Let's be real. Your life is filled with noise, emails that don't matter, meetings that lead nowhere, notifications that scream for attention but vanish into forgettable moments, subscriptions you barely use, commitments you said yes to long ago out of politeness but no longer serve your goals. The trivial many aren't always obvious because they masquerade as important. But when you measure them by outcome, the truth surfaces. They give little and cost much. Take the story of Jack, a mid-level manager at a software company. He prided himself on being responsive. He answered every email within minutes, attended every meeting, said yes to every request. On paper, he looked busy, always typing, always rushing. But his actual contributions were shallow. Projects dragged on. His team lacked direction, and his stress levels spiked. One day, he sat down and analyzed his week. He discovered that 80% of his meaningful results came from a handful of focused strategy sessions and one-on-one coaching with his team. The rest, emails, unproductive meetings, minor administrative work, was clutter. When he started declining unnecessary meetings, batching his email checks, and automating reports, he freed hours each week. Suddenly, he had energy for his vital tasks, and his performance soared. Your life holds similar clutter. The trivial many sneak in like weeds. They're not necessarily evil. They're just invasive. If you don't pull them out, they spread until your garden is choked. So how do you spot them? Start by asking yourself 2 questions. 1. Which activities take the most time, but deliver the least results? 2. Which commitments drain my energy without bringing me closer to my goals? Be honest with your answers. It may sting to admit that some tasks you've clung to are actually trivial. It may be uncomfortable to see that some relationships you maintain out of habit don't contribute much. But honesty is your liberation. Let's dive deeper into the types of trivial, many you might face. Digital clutter, social media feeds, constant notifications, endless group chats. These can devour hours while giving you little more than distraction. You tell yourself you're staying connected, but at the end of the day, you feel drained, not enriched. Task clutter. Busy work that feels productive but isn't. Filing documents that no one reads. Perfecting a slide deck that could have been done in half the time. Answering emails that don't change anything. Commitment clutter. Saying yes to every invitation. Joining committees or groups that don't align with your values. Taking on projects out of guilt rather than purpose. Physical clutter. Items you never use that fill your space and subtly weigh on your mind. A messy desk, a crowded closet, a kitchen packed with gadgets you never touch. To eliminate the trivial many, you need courage and systems. Courage to say no. Courage to release. Courage to disappoint others in order to stay true to your focus. Systems to automate, delegate, and streamline so you don't waste energy on the unnecessary. Let's practice with some steps. Step 1. Identify. Track your activities for a week and highlight the ones that feel heavy but produce little. Pay attention to moments when you sigh, procrastinate, or feel drained. Those are clues. Step 2. Evaluate. Ask, if I stopped doing this, what would truly happen? Often, the answer is not much. Many tasks continue out of habit, not necessity. Step 3. Eliminate or reduce. Some trivial tasks can vanish completely, like unsubscribing from irrelevant emails. Others can shrink, like reducing meeting times or limiting social media. Step 4. Delegate or automate. If a task must happen but doesn't need you, pass it on. Use tools, hire help, or share the load. Step 5. Protect. Guard your time fiercely. Say no with grace but firmness. Remember, every yes to the trivial many is a no to your vital few. Consider another story. Emma loved painting but rarely found time for it. Her days filled with errands, favors for friends, endless scrolling, and small obligations. She always told herself she was too busy. But when she listed her weekly tasks, she realized that hours slipped away on things like attending events she didn't care about and shopping online for items she didn't need. She made a radical choice. She cut those things out. Within weeks, she carved out several hours a week for painting. Her joy returned, not because her life suddenly had more time, but because she stopped wasting it on the trivial many. Here's a simple exercise for you. Take out a sheet of paper. Draw a line down the middle. On the left, write down activities that give little result but consume time. On the right, write down activities that create outsized results. Now, imagine cutting the left side in half. How would your life feel? What would open up? What could you finally pursue? The act of letting go is not just practical, it's emotional. You release the fear of missing out. You release the need to please everyone. You release the illusion that being busy equals being valuable. You realize that your worth isn't measured by the number of tasks you do, but by the impact you create. Think of the relief of walking into a decluttered room. The air feels lighter, your mind clearer, your body calmer. That's exactly what happens when you declutter your schedule and commitments. The trivial many lose their grip, and suddenly, your vital few have space to shine. This doesn't mean you live with robotic discipline or cut out every indulgence. It means you choose consciously. If you want to spend an evening watching a movie, you do it with joy, not as a default escape. If you attend an event, it's because it matters to you, not because you couldn't say no. Conscious choice is the antidote to clutter. There's one more truth you need to embrace. The trivial many will always try to creep back in. Like weeds, they return. That's why you must make elimination a regular practice. Review your life monthly. Ask, what has become clutter again? What can I release? This habit keeps you light and focused. So as you stand here, reflect. What are the top 3 trivial things draining your energy right now? Maybe it's a social commitment you dread. Maybe it's a digital distraction. Maybe it's a project that no longer aligns with your goals. Write them down. Then, commit to cutting or reducing them this week. Feel the weight lift as you put them down. You don't need to do everything. You don't need to please everyone. You don't need to chase every noise. Your life becomes extraordinary, not when you add more, but when you release what doesn't belong. The trivial many are not your masters. You have the choice, the clarity, and the courage to let them go. And when you do, you'll finally have the space and freedom to let your vital few flourish. You've cleared space. The trivial many have started to loosen their grip, and your vital few are beginning to stand out like stars in the night sky. Now the question becomes, what do you do with your time once it's freed? How do you make each hour not just pass, but truly count? This is where you learn to turn time into your ally. Instead of wrestling against the clock, you begin shaping your days so that time works for you, not against you. Think about the difference between someone who is merely busy and someone who is truly effective. Both may spend the same number of hours awake, but one ends the day frazzled and unsatisfied, while the other ends calm and accomplished. The difference isn't willpower or intelligence, it's how they use their time. You have exactly 24 hours in a day, no more and no less. The secret is not cramming in more tasks, but choosing the right ones and creating rhythms that make each hour more productive than the last. Picture a river. If you let it run wild, it floods, rushes, and wastes energy. But when you channel it with care, irrigation canals, dams, turbines, it becomes a source of power. Time is the same. Left unmanaged, it slips away, carrying your focus with it. But when you guide it, time turns into strength. Start by reframing how you see time. Most people talk about spending time as if it's money they toss away. But you're not just spending, you're investing. Every minute is a seed you plant. Some seeds sprout into fruit that nourishes you for years. Others rot before they even grow. The way you treat your hours today determines the harvest of your future. So, how do you invest wisely? Begin with priorities. Each morning, or better yet, the night before, ask yourself, what are the 2 or 3 things that, if done, will make today a success? These are your big rocks, the vital few tasks that align with your goals. Once you've named them, guard them like treasure. Block time for them first, before you let the small tasks creep in. Take the Eisenhower box as a simple tool. Divide your tasks into 4 categories: urgent and important, important but not urgent, urgent but not important, and neither urgent nor important. The trap most people fall into is spending life in the urgent but not important box, answering emails, responding to minor requests, jumping at every ping. The true magic lies in the important but not urgent box. Planning, building, nurturing relationships, learning skills. These are the seeds of long-term growth. By putting them first, you stay ahead instead of constantly playing catch-up. Consider this story. A writer named Leo spent years feeling frustrated. He dreamed of finishing his novel, but his days disappeared into teaching classes, answering messages, doing chores, and running errands. At night, he was too exhausted to write. Then he changed one thing. He woke up an hour earlier and made writing his first task every day. Within months, his novel was finished. That single shift, giving his most important work prime time, changed his life. The hours were always there. He simply hadn't invested them in the right place. You can create the same shift. Ask yourself, when are you at your best? Morning, afternoon, evening. Whatever the answer. Protect that golden window for your most vital work. Don't waste it on scrolling, shallow tasks, or errands. Use it for the things that create real results. Your craft, your relationships, your health. This one practice can double or triple your effectiveness without adding a single extra hour. Another key principle is batching. Task switching is one of the biggest thieves of time. Every time you jump from one thing to another, answering emails, then writing, then checking social media, then a phone call, you lose focus. Your brain must reorient itself each time, and the cost is enormous. Instead, group similar tasks together. Check email only twice a day. Make all your calls in one block. Run errands in a single trip. This preserves your focus for the big tasks that matter. There's also the Pomodoro technique, a simple rhythm of working in focused 25-minute bursts, followed by a 5-minute break. After 4 cycles, you take a longer break. It sounds simple, even childish, but it trains your mind to stay present. It turns daunting tasks into manageable sprints. If you've ever put off starting because something felt too big, this method helps you begin. Technology can be friend or foe in your relationship with time. Left unchecked, it distracts you, pulling your attention into endless scrolling. But used wisely, it becomes a powerful ally. Calendar apps, task managers, focus timers, they all help you design your day intentionally. The danger is letting the tools run you instead of you running them. Remember, the tool is the servant, not the master. Rest is another non-negotiable. Too many people treat rest as optional, as if exhaustion were a badge of honor. But when you're drained, your hours lose power. 1 rested hour is worth 3 exhausted ones. Sleep, breaks, movement, even play. These are not indulgences. They are investments in sharper focus and higher output. Picture a saw. If you never pause to sharpen it, eventually it becomes useless, no matter how hard you push. Rest is sharpening the saw of your life. Let's return to the analogy of money. Imagine you have a bank account where you invest hours. Some deposits grow interest. An hour spent exercising boosts your energy all day. An hour spent planning saves you 10 hours later. An hour spent on a heartfelt conversation strengthens a relationship for years. Other deposits vanish. An hour of mindless scrolling, an hour of gossip, an hour of tasks that don't matter. Which kind of investor do you want to be? Try this exercise. At the end of today, review your hours as if they were financial statements. Which investments gave you the greatest return? Which ones were wasted? Then decide tomorrow to invest more in the high-return hours. Within weeks, you'll notice the compounding effect. Small shifts in time management creating exponential results. The beauty of this approach is its freedom. You don't need to chain yourself to a rigid schedule. You simply need to honor your priorities, batch your tasks, guard your focus, and rest deeply. This creates space not only for productivity, but for joy. You'll find yourself finishing work earlier, with energy left for the things you love. That's not laziness, that's mastery. Remember this: time is not your enemy. It is not slipping through your fingers faster than you can catch it. Time is neutral. What changes everything is how you partner with it. You can waste it, or you can shape it into a force that builds your dreams. When you learn to channel it, you stop feeling rushed and start feeling powerful. Each day becomes a canvas, and your choices are the brushstrokes that paint your future. So tomorrow, instead of waking up and plunging into noise, pause. Ask, what are the few things today that will matter most in a year? Do those first. Then let the rest arrange itself around them. That's how you turn time from a thief into an ally, from a source of stress into a source of strength. You've started to master your hours, treating them as allies instead of enemies. But time management is only half of the equation. You can free your schedule, clear the clutter, and create perfect focus blocks. But if you don't know your true priorities, you'll still drift. Priorities are the compass that ensures your actions move you in the right direction. Without them, you risk working efficiently on the wrong things. And nothing feels worse than realizing you climbed a ladder quickly, only to find it leaned against the wrong wall. Think about your life as a jar filled with rocks, pebbles, and sand. The rocks are your highest priorities. The pebbles are useful but secondary, and the sand is the trivial many. If you start by filling the jar with sand, there's no room left for the rocks. But when you place the rocks first, the pebbles and sand can fit around them. This isn't just a clever metaphor. It's the reality of how your life fills up. The question you face daily is, am I protecting my rocks? Or am I letting sand crowd them out? Priorities give you clarity. They help you say no without guilt, because you know what you're saying yes to. They allow you to focus your energy on actions that align with your deeper values, not just your immediate impulses. Without them, life becomes reactive. You jump from fire to fire, request to request, without ever moving closer to what truly matters. Let's make this concrete. Imagine Anna, an ambitious designer. Her days are crammed with tasks, answering emails, tweaking details on small projects, attending team meetings. She works long hours, yet her dream of building a powerful portfolio and landing a top design job keeps slipping further away. One evening, exhausted, she writes down her top goals. She realizes 3 things matter most: developing her creative skills, building a standout portfolio, and applying for dream jobs. The next day, she reorganizes her week. She blocks daily time for portfolio work, spends evenings learning advanced tools, and dedicates weekends to applications. Within months, she lands interviews at leading firms. Her life didn't suddenly gain more hours. She simply aligned her actions with her real priorities. So how do you uncover your own? Begin with questions that cut through the noise. If I could only accomplish 3 things this year, what would they be? Which goals, if achieved, would make everything else easier or less important? Which outcomes align with my deepest values, not just external expectations. Write down your answers. Don't rush. Sit with them until they feel true. These answers reveal your big rocks. Next, rank them. This feels uncomfortable because we like to believe all our goals are equally important. But the truth is, when everything matters, nothing matters. Ranking forces you to choose. Ask yourself, if I had to succeed at only one thing this year, which would it be? Place that first, then repeat with the rest. This creates a clear order of importance. Once you've ranked your priorities, break them down into actionable steps. Big goals can feel overwhelming, but when divided into smaller tasks, they become manageable. If your priority is advancing in your career, your steps might include networking, developing a new skill, or seeking mentorship. If your priority is health, your steps might be regular exercise, meal planning, or better sleep routines. The key is to translate priorities into actions you can actually put on your calendar. Here's another tool, the 80-20 lens. Look at your list of tasks. Which 20% will create 80% of the results toward your priorities? Focus there. The rest may be nice to do, but they're not vital. This prevents you from getting lost in busy work disguised as progress. Consider a story of Marcus, an entrepreneur. He wanted to grow his business but felt overwhelmed. His list of tasks was endless: social media posts, bookkeeping, cold calls, product tweaks, customer service. After reflection, he realized his biggest priority was revenue growth. Looking through the 80-20 lens, he saw that most revenue came from a small group of loyal customers. So he shifted his focus to nurturing those relationships, offering them more value, and asking for referrals. The result? His revenue doubled in 6 months. By aligning his priorities with his actions, he created massive impact without burning out. Of course, knowing your priorities isn't enough. You must protect them. This is where many people stumble. Life constantly throws distractions at you, urgent requests that masquerade as important. To safeguard your priorities, you need boundaries. Say no to commitments that don't align. Limit time spent on trivial tasks. Use your calendar as a shield, blocking time for your highest priorities first. And don't forget the importance of reviewing. Priorities shift as life changes. What mattered most last year may not matter now. Set aside time weekly or monthly to reflect. Ask, do my current actions align with my top priorities? Do my priorities still reflect who I want to be? Adjust as needed. Here's a practical exercise you can try tonight. Write down all the tasks and goals on your mind. Circle the top 3 that, if achieved, would make the biggest difference in your life right now. Then, for each, write one small step you can take tomorrow. Schedule those steps. Protect them. This practice transforms vague intentions into daily movement. Another key element is emotional connection. Your priorities must resonate with your heart, not just your logic. If a goal doesn't excite or inspire you, it will fade. Tie each priority to a deeper why. If your priority is health, your why might be having energy to play with your kids or living long enough to see your grandchildren. If your priority is financial freedom, your why might be creating security for your family or having freedom to pursue your passions. The stronger the emotional tie, the more resilient you'll be when challenges arise. You may notice resistance here. Choosing priorities means admitting you can't do everything. That feels limiting. But paradoxically, it's freeing. Once you choose what matters, you no longer waste energy on the rest. You gain clarity, momentum, and peace. Instead of scattering yourself thinly, you channel your energy like a laser. Imagine waking tomorrow with absolute clarity. You know your top 3 priorities. You've blocked time for them. You have small steps ready to go. As the day unfolds, distractions come, but you brush them aside because you know what matters. At night, even if you didn't do everything, you feel satisfied. Why? Because you moved the needle on the things that count. That satisfaction builds day by day until you've transformed your life. So here's your challenge. Stop treating all tasks as equal. Stop letting urgency dictate your path. Choose your rocks, place them first, and let everything else arrange around them. Priorities are not chains, they are wings. They give you the clarity to soar without flapping frantically. And when you live aligned with them, every hour becomes more meaningful, every effort more effective. That's the gift of setting your priorities right. You've identified your priorities, the big rocks that deserve your energy, and you've begun shaping your days around them. But there's still a lingering misconception you must break free from. The idea that productivity equals grinding yourself into the ground. Many people still cling to the belief that if you're not exhausted, you're not working hard enough. You've seen it. The colleague who brags about pulling all-nighters, the friend who treats busyness like a badge of honor. Yet if you look closely, you notice something strange. The people who achieve the most often seem the least frantic. They're calmer, lighter, even playful. That's because true productivity is not about pushing harder. It's about working smarter, using less effort to create greater results. Think of an archer. They don't fire arrows wildly in every direction, hoping one will hit. They line up carefully, pull back with precision, and release smoothly. The energy looks effortless, but the impact is powerful. That is how you must approach your work and your life. Less force, more focus. So how do you increase productivity while reducing strain? First, you start by redefining productivity itself. It's not the number of tasks completed, it's the value created. You can cross off 20 small items on your list and still feel empty. Or you can complete one high-impact task and change your entire week. Productivity is measured not by volume, but by significance. Take the example of Clara, a marketing manager. For years, she stayed late every night, drowning in tasks, responding to endless emails, adjusting minor details, chasing small wins. She looked busy, but felt stuck. One day, she decided to track the impact of her actions. She discovered that the majority of her company's successful campaigns came from just a few brainstorming sessions and creative pitches she led. That realization changed everything. She delegated routine tasks, automated repetitive reports, and protected her time for creativity. Within months, her results skyrocketed, and she finally had evenings free again. Clara wasn't lazier. She was smarter. Here's where systems come in. If you want to do more with less effort, you need structures that carry some of the weight for you. One system is batching similar tasks. Instead of answering emails 10 times a day, set 2 windows, morning and afternoon. Instead of scheduling scattered meetings, cluster them together so you protect large blocks of uninterrupted focus. This reduces mental fatigue from constant switching and gives you energy for deep work. Another system is automation. Technology can steal your focus, but it can also serve as your ally. Automate recurring bills. Use scheduling tools for posts or reminders. Set up filters in your email. Each small automation may save only minutes, but those minutes compound into hours, and those hours into freedom. Delegation is another powerful lever. Too many people cling to tasks because they believe no one else can do them as well. But often, the real reason is control or fear. The truth is, someone else can handle many of your trivial or routine tasks, sometimes better than you. When you delegate, you buy back your most precious resource, attention. And attention is the currency of productivity. Let's talk about energy, because productivity is as much about how you feel as what you do. A tired mind moves slowly. A vibrant mind flies. That means your habits outside of work matter just as much as the work itself. Sleep, exercise, nutrition, and breaks are not optional. They are the foundations of peak output. Think of your brain like a smartphone. No matter how advanced the apps, if the battery is drained, nothing runs well. Charging your body is how you keep your productivity alive. Focus techniques also play a role. You've heard of the Pomodoro technique, working in 25-minute sprints followed by short breaks. It's simple but powerful, especially when tasks feel overwhelming. But you can also experiment with other rhythms. Some people thrive in 90-minute deep work sessions followed by 20-minute breaks. Others prefer shorter bursts. The key is to discover your natural cycles and honor them, instead of forcing yourself into endless hours of shallow work. Now imagine what happens when you combine all these elements: clarity of priorities, systems to streamline tasks, habits that sustain energy, and focus rhythms. Productivity stops being about strain. It becomes about flow. You move through your day with ease, accomplishing more than ever, yet finishing lighter instead of heavier. Here's a story to bring it home. Jordan, a freelance designer, used to work 12-hour days, constantly juggling projects. He often missed deadlines and burned out. Then he made a shift. He listed his priorities, batched his tasks, automated his invoices, and started exercising daily. He began working in focused morning blocks, reserving afternoons for client calls. Within 3 months, his income doubled, not because he worked more, but because he worked better. He had evenings free, weekends to recharge, and clients who praised his reliability. He discovered the sweet spot. Maximum results, minimum strain. Try this exercise. Tonight, review your task list. Highlight the 2 or 3 items that would deliver the most value if completed. Tomorrow, tackle those first, using your peak energy hours. Then look at the remaining tasks, which can be batched, which can be automated, which can be delegated. Watch how your workload shrinks and your results expand. You may feel resistance here. Part of you believes effort must equal struggle. But remember the archer. Power lies not in flailing, but in precision. The most effective people are not the most exhausted. They're the most intentional. They choose their battles, conserve their energy, and release it where it counts. So let go of the myth that productivity is about doing more. Embrace the truth. It's about creating more value with less effort. That's not laziness. It's wisdom. When you harness this wisdom, you'll discover new space in your life for creativity, for rest, for joy. And you'll realize that the real reward of productivity isn't just achievement. It's freedom. You've learned that productivity doesn't have to feel like exhaustion, that you can create greater results with less strain. But here's the next truth. You can't rely on bursts of motivation alone. Willpower is fickle. Some days you'll feel unstoppable. Other days you'll feel like doing nothing at all. If you leave your growth to moods or fleeting bursts of inspiration, you'll struggle with inconsistency. What carries you forward when motivation fades are habits. Habits are the invisible architecture of your life. the quiet routines that shape your destiny. Think about your day. Nearly half of what you do happens automatically. Brushing your teeth, checking your phone, the route you take to work. These actions don't require much conscious thought. Now imagine if the majority of those automatic behaviors aligned with your deepest goals. Progress would no longer depend on force. It would happen almost effortlessly. That's the power of effective habits. They lock the 80-20 principle into place without constant strain. Let's start by breaking down how habits form. Every habit follows a simple loop: cue, routine, reward. The cue is the trigger, an alarm going off, a certain place, an emotional state. The routine is the action you take. The reward is the benefit you get, even if small, that reinforces the cycle. For example, feeling stressed, cue, leads to grabbing your phone and scrolling, routine, which provides distraction, reward. The loop strengthens over time until it becomes automatic. If you want to build habits that sustain your vital few, you don't fight the loop, you redesign it. Choose a cue that naturally fits into your life. Attach a small routine aligned with your goal, and give yourself a satisfying reward. Over time, the loop ingrains itself. Take Mia, who wanted to develop a daily meditation habit. Instead of setting a vague goal like meditate more, she tied it to a specific cue: her morning cup of coffee. After pouring her coffee, she would sit for 5 minutes in silence. Her reward was not only calm, but the pleasure of savoring the coffee afterward. Within weeks, meditation became part of her identity, no longer a chore she had to remember, but a rhythm she simply lived. That's the secret. Start small. Most people fail at habits because they aim too big, too fast. They decide to run 5 miles every day after years of inactivity, or to overhaul their entire diet overnight. The willpower runs out, and the habit collapses. Instead, shrink the action until it feels almost too easy. 1 push-up a day, 5 minutes of reading, writing 1 sentence. Once it's consistent, you expand. Momentum builds naturally. There's a saying, small hinges swing big doors. Habits are those hinges. Done consistently, even the tiniest action compounds into massive transformation. Think about brushing your teeth. It's only 2 minutes a day, but across years, it protects your health and confidence. Imagine what other 2-minute actions could do if repeated daily. Now, consider the flip side: eliminating habits that don't serve you. You don't always need to resist them directly. Often it's easier to replace them. If you have a habit of snacking when stressed, swap chips for fruit. If you tend to scroll in bed at night, replace the phone on your nightstand with a book. You still satisfy the loop: cue, routine, reward, but in a healthier direction. Another powerful tool is accountability. Share your new habit with a friend or partner who will check in with you. Humans are wired for social reinforcement. When you know someone will ask about your progress, you're far more likely to follow through. Tracking also helps. Marking off each day you complete your habit creates a chain you won't want to break. Apps and journals can serve as visual reminders that progress is happening, even if slowly. The satisfaction of seeing a streak builds motivation to keep going. Let's explore a story. David wanted to exercise but always found excuses. Then he made one tiny rule: put on his running shoes every morning after brushing his teeth. Some days he ran for 20 minutes. Other days just walked around the block. But he kept the habit alive. Months later, he was running 5Ks. Not because of sudden bursts of willpower, but because his shoes by the door became his cue, and the small routine snowballed into a lifestyle. The magic of habits is how they compound. One positive habit often triggers others. Start exercising, and you begin eating healthier. Start journaling, and you become more reflective. Start waking up earlier, and you gain time for priorities. It's like pulling one thread that unravels a whole new pattern of living. Here's a practical exercise for you. Write down one positive habit you want to build and one negative habit you want to replace. Break them into the loop: cue, routine, reward. Then shrink the action until it feels ridiculously easy. Commit to it daily. Track your progress. Share it with someone you trust. In a few weeks, watch the shift unfold. Don't underestimate the patience required. Research shows it can take anywhere from 21 to 90 days for a habit to become automatic. Some take longer. The key is persistence, not perfection. Missing one day is human. The danger is missing twice, because that starts a new negative loop. So when you stumble, simply restart. Habits are not about flawless streaks. They're about steady return. Above all, habits shape identity. When you repeat an action, you cast a vote for the kind of person you are. Run daily, and you cast votes for "I am a runner." Write daily, and you cast votes for "I am a writer." Even small votes accumulate. Over time, your self-image shifts, and once your identity changes, consistency becomes effortless. Imagine who you want to be a year from now. Not just what you want to achieve, but who you want to become. Then ask, what small daily habits would that version of me practice? Start living them now, even in the smallest way. Your future self will thank you. The 80-20 principle thrives on habits. Once you've identified your vital few, habits are the guardrails that keep you on track. Day after day, without constant decision-making. They reduce friction, conserve willpower, and make excellence automatic. That's why building effective habits is not just an option, it's essential. So tonight, set one cue, one tiny routine, one small reward. Begin the loop. It may feel small, but over time, it will shape your destiny. Habits are the quiet engine of transformation, and when you harness them, you align your daily life with your highest vision almost effortlessly. By now, you've cleared distractions, chosen your priorities, and begun weaving them into habits that run almost on autopilot. But there's another force you need to master if you want to make those habits truly powerful. Focus. Focus is the magnifying glass that concentrates your energy onto a single point until it burns bright. Without it, even the best priorities and habits scatter. With it, your results multiply beyond what you thought possible. Think about sunlight, spread across a field. It warms the ground, but concentrated through a magnifying glass, it can ignite fire. That's the difference between a life spent dabbling in dozens of things versus a life anchored in focus. You can dabble your way into exhaustion, or you can focus your way into breakthroughs. In today's world, distractions come at you from every angle. Buzzing phones, endless notifications, news cycles, advertisements, background noise, even your own racing thoughts. If you're not intentional, your attention is constantly pulled apart, leaving you fragmented. You may end the day tired, yet when you ask yourself what you truly accomplished, the answer is not much. The culprit isn't laziness, it's diluted focus. So how do you reclaim it? The first step is clarity. You can't focus if you don't know what deserves your attention. This is why identifying your vital few and setting priorities came first. Once you know what matters, focus is about protecting your attention for those things, like guarding a flame from the wind. Let's ground this in an example. Imagine Nora, a college student studying for finals. She tries to multitask, scrolling on her phone, texting friends, flipping between subjects. Hours pass, and she feels drained, but unprepared. The next day, she tries something new. She silences her phone, clears her desk, and commits to one subject for 90 minutes. At the end, she not only remembers more, but feels calmer. The time was the same. The focus was different. Multitasking is one of the great myths of productivity. Your brain cannot fully attend to two complex tasks at once. What you're actually doing is rapid task switching, which burns energy and reduces efficiency. You feel busy, but you accomplish less. The antidote is monotasking, giving your full attention to one thing at a time. It may feel slower at first, but it's far more powerful. Here's a simple practice. Choose one task, set a timer for 25 minutes, and work on nothing else. No emails, no notifications, no just checking. When the timer rings, take a short break. Repeat. This is the Pomodoro technique, and though it's simple, it retrains your brain to stay present. Over time, your focus muscles strengthen, just like physical muscles do at the gym. Environment also plays a huge role. If your surroundings are full of distractions, focus becomes a constant battle. Create a focus-friendly space, clear desk, organized tools, minimal clutter. If you can't control the environment, control your cues, noise-canceling headphones, focus music, or even a ritual like lighting a candle can signal your brain. Now, it's time to concentrate. Technology deserves special mention here. It can either fragment your attention or sharpen it. Left unchecked, it bombards you with notifications, each one stealing a slice of your focus. But with boundaries, it can serve you. Turn off unnecessary alerts. Use website blockers during work sessions. Design your digital environment as intentionally as your physical one. Focus isn't only about work, it's about presence. Imagine talking to a friend while half listening, your eyes darting to your phone. The connection feels thin. Now imagine giving them full attention, eye contact, nods, silence when they pause. That moment becomes richer, deeper, more memorable. The same applies to every area of life. Focus transforms ordinary moments into extraordinary ones. Let's consider another story. Ethan, a young entrepreneur, used to start his mornings by checking emails. Hours would vanish, leaving little time for strategy. He felt constantly behind. Then he made one change. He began every morning with 90 minutes of deep work on his most important project before opening his inbox. Within weeks, his progress doubled. He realized it wasn't about working more hours, but about focusing his best energy where it mattered most. Here's a practical exercise for you. Tonight, write down your top 3 priorities for tomorrow. In the morning, choose one and commit your first block of time to it before anything else. Protect it like a sacred ritual. Even if the rest of the day unravels, you'll have moved the needle on what matters most. That single practice, done consistently, can transform your output. Another key to focus is learning to enter flow state, that zone where you lose track of time. Distractions fade, and you're fully absorbed in what you're doing. Flow happens when the challenge of a task matches your skill level, hard enough to engage you, but not so hard that it overwhelms you. To enter flow, clear distractions, set a clear goal, and immerse yourself fully. Once you've tasted it, you'll want to return again and again, because it feels both productive and joyful. Mindfulness and meditation also strengthen focus. Just a few minutes of daily practice, breathing deeply, noticing thoughts without judgment, bringing your attention back. Train your brain to stay present. Over time, you become better at noticing when your mind wanders and gently returning to the task at hand. Of course, focus also requires saying no. Every yes to a trivial request is a no to your vital few. Protect your time fiercely. Be polite, but firm. Remember, your attention is the most valuable resource you own. Spend it with intention. Here's a thought experiment. Imagine your attention as a beam of light. Where you point it, life grows. Where you neglect it, things wither. What are you illuminating right now? And what deserves more light? Focus isn't about rigidity or perfection. You'll get distracted. That's human. The goal is not to eliminate distractions entirely, but to notice them sooner and return more quickly. Each time you do, you strengthen your focus. So, as you move forward, practice this. Choose fewer things, give them fuller attention, and watch how your life transforms. Focus is the amplifier of the 80-20 principle. It turns your vital few into powerful forces, and when you master it, you not only achieve more, you experience life more deeply, fully, vividly. You've begun to experience what happens when you channel your attention with intensity, the way focus multiplies the effect of your vital few. But there's another secret to achieving more with less that often goes overlooked: learning to play to your strengths. The 80-20 principle is not just about pruning tasks or eliminating distractions. It's also about amplifying what you already do well. When you align your life with your natural abilities, effort feels lighter, results come faster, and progress feels almost effortless. Think about it. Every person has areas where they naturally excel. For some, it's communication. They can inspire, persuade, and connect with ease. For others, it's problem solving, seeing patterns others miss, untangling complexity. Others shine with creativity, organization, empathy, or technical skill. The tragedy is that so many people spend most of their time trying to fix weaknesses instead of building on strengths. They end up exhausted, patching holes instead of sailing forward. Imagine you're a runner. You're naturally fast at sprints but weaker at long distance. If you force yourself to spend years training marathons, you may improve slightly, but you'll always struggle. Yet if you lean into your sprinting talent, you could become world-class. The lesson is simple. Pouring energy into weaknesses yields modest returns, but investing in strengths yields exponential ones. That's pure 80-20 thinking. So how do you identify your strengths? Start by reflecting on moments of flow, the times when work felt effortless, when hours slipped by, and you produced great results almost without strain. Those moments reveal your natural talents. Also, pay attention to what others often compliment you on. Sometimes others see your strengths more clearly than you do. Maybe you dismiss your ability to calm tense situations as just being nice. But to others, it's leadership. Consider Laura, a project manager. She always believed her biggest weakness was public speaking, so she poured energy into overcoming it. But no matter how hard she tried, she remained average. Meanwhile, she had a natural gift for organization and systems. Her team often marveled at how she could turn chaos into clarity. When she finally decided to lean into that strength, designing workflows, building systems, her performance soared. She became known as the person who could rescue failing projects. Her career flourished, not because she conquered every weakness, but because she maximized her strengths. This doesn't mean you ignore weaknesses altogether. Some must be managed if they directly block your priorities. But instead of obsessing over them, you can often neutralize weaknesses by collaborating with others whose strengths complement yours. If you struggle with detail, partner with someone meticulous. If you dislike selling, team up with a natural connector. Collaboration allows everyone to shine in their area of strength. Here's a practical way to apply this. Make 3 lists. 1. Activities that drain you, things you dread or avoid. 2. Activities that feel neutral. You can do them, but they don't light you up. 3. Activities that energize you, things that excite you and often lead to great results. The third list is where your strengths live. Now ask, how can I spend more time here? How can I structure my days so that these energizing tasks dominate my schedule? Take another example. Omar, a small business owner. He spent countless hours managing finances, something he hated and wasn't good at. His energy for innovation was constantly drained. Finally, he hired a bookkeeper, even though it felt like an extra cost. That single decision freed him to focus on product development and client relationships, his true strengths. Within a year, his business revenue doubled. The cost of outsourcing paled in comparison to the growth from leaning into his strengths. The 80-20 principle tells us that most of your results come from a small portion of your efforts. Often, that small portion is the work tied to your natural strengths. When you double down there, you stop swimming upstream and start riding the current. There's also an identity shift here. When you work from your strengths, you stop feeling like an imposter. You show up with confidence because you're operating in alignment with who you are. That confidence itself creates opportunities. People notice when you radiate competence and energy. They're drawn to it. Of course, leaning into your strengths requires courage. Society often pushes you to fix yourself, to be well-rounded, to blend in. But greatness rarely comes from blending in. It comes from standing out, owning your gifts and offering them boldly. That doesn't make you arrogant. It makes you authentic. Here's an exercise you can try this week. Ask 5 people you trust, friends, colleagues, mentors, to describe when they've seen you at your best. Look for patterns in their answers. You may discover strengths you take for granted. Then, choose one and brainstorm ways to use it more in your daily life. Maybe you're a natural encourager, so you set aside 10 minutes daily to check in with your team. Maybe you're creative, so you carve space each week for brainstorming new ideas. Small shifts, big impact. The truth is, life feels different when you live in your strengths. Work feels less like drudgery and more like play. Progress comes faster because you're not fighting your nature. Your results expand because strengths compound over time. And perhaps most importantly, you feel more alive. So stop pouring endless energy into patching your weaknesses. Start investing in the talents that already shine. Let others support you where you're weak, and give the world your best where you're strong. That's how you honor the 80-20 principle, not just by cutting away what doesn't matter, but by multiplying what does. You've learned how much more powerful your life becomes when you play to your strengths, when you stop scattering your energy across endless weaknesses and instead amplify what you do best. But even as you cultivate focus and habits around your vital few, there's another dimension you can't ignore: your environment. Because no matter how strong your willpower or how sharp your priorities, the space and people around you either support your growth or quietly sabotage it. Environment isn't neutral. It's always nudging you in one direction or another. The key is to design it intentionally. Think about it. If you're trying to eat healthier, but your kitchen is stocked with chips and cookies, every choice becomes a battle. If you want to focus but your desk is cluttered and your phone keeps buzzing, distraction becomes inevitable. Conversely, when your surroundings are aligned with your goals, success feels natural. You don't need to wrestle with willpower every moment, because the environment makes the better choice, the easier choice. Start with the physical environment. Look at the spaces where you spend the most time: your home, your office, even your digital screens. Ask yourself, do these spaces energize me or drain me? Do they reflect the person I want to become? Small changes can make a huge difference. A clean desk signals clarity. A quiet corner with a chair and lamp can become a reading sanctuary. A fridge stocked with fruits and vegetables becomes a daily nudge toward health. Take the example of Sophia, a teacher who struggled with grading papers at home. Her living room was full of distractions: TV, clutter, family interruptions. So she created a grading corner, a small desk by the window, with only pens, papers, and a plant. That simple shift transformed her focus. She began finishing her work faster and with less stress. It wasn't about forcing discipline. It was about shaping her environment. Now, let's talk about the people around you. Relationships are part of your environment, and they profoundly influence your mindset. There's a saying, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If your circle is full of negativity, procrastination, or mediocrity, those habits seep into you. If your circle is full of energy, vision, and encouragement, you rise with them. Think of Daniel, an aspiring musician. He loved playing guitar, but surrounded himself with friends who only wanted to party. They laughed when he talked about recording songs. Their influence made him doubt himself. Eventually, he joined a local community of musicians who practiced together, shared feedback, and pushed each other to perform. His skills skyrocketed, and within a year, he was recording his first album. His talent hadn't changed. His environment had. So ask yourself, who surrounds me daily? Do they support my growth or stifle it? This doesn't mean cutting people out coldly, but it does mean consciously choosing who gets your energy. You can limit exposure to negativity and seek out mentors, peers, and friends who inspire you. Even books, podcasts, or online communities can become part of your circle, filling your mind with voices that lift you higher. Environment also includes routines and triggers. For example, leaving your running shoes by the door makes it easier to exercise. Keeping a water bottle on your desk reminds you to hydrate. Setting your phone in another room at night helps you sleep better. These small tweaks remove friction and create alignment between your environment and your priorities. Here's a practical exercise. Choose one goal you're pursuing right now. Then audit your environment. List the things that make that goal harder and the things that make it easier. Now change just one element to tilt the odds in your favor. If you want to read more, place a book on your pillow every morning so it's waiting at night. If you want to save money, delete shopping apps from your phone. These small environmental cues, repeated daily, have an outsized effect. Digital environments deserve special attention. Our phones, computers, and apps are often the most distracting spaces we inhabit, but you can redesign them too. Organize your home screen so your most important tools are front and center, and distracting apps are buried or removed. Use timers to limit social media. Curate your feeds to include only content that inspires or educates you. The goal is to make your digital environment work for you instead of against you. Another layer of environment is energy. Notice how different places make you feel. A noisy cafe might energize one person, but drain another. A quiet park might spark creativity for you, but feel isolating for someone else. Pay attention to your own rhythms. Seek out spaces that match the kind of energy you need: focus, creativity, relaxation, or connection. Let's return to the bigger picture. The 80-20 principle teaches us that a small number of factors create most of our results. Your environment is one of those vital few. A handful of changes in your surroundings can unlock disproportionate progress in your life. And unlike willpower, which gets depleted, environment quietly works in the background, nudging you toward better choices again and again. Here's another story to bring this alive. Maria wanted to start writing every morning, but she never seemed to follow through. Then she redesigned her bedroom. She placed a small table by the window with her journal and pen. She moved her phone charger to the living room so her phone wasn't within reach when she woke. The next morning, instead of scrolling, she sat down at the table and wrote. That small shift cascaded into a daily writing habit that eventually turned into her first book. This is the secret. Don't fight harder. Design smarter. Shape your environment so that your goals become the path of least resistance. Remove friction for good habits. Add friction for bad ones. Surround yourself with people who lift you, spaces that energize you, and cues that remind you who you want to be. When you do this, discipline becomes less about constant effort and more about alignment. You stop pushing against the current and start flowing with it. That's the gift of an intentional environment. It transforms your aspirations into your everyday reality. You've seen how powerfully your environment shapes you, how the spaces, tools, and people around you quietly push you closer to or further from your goals. Now it's time to zoom in even further on one of the most defining parts of your environment: your relationships. Because the truth is, no matter how disciplined, focused, or skilled you are, the people you surround yourself with can either accelerate your growth or anchor you in place. Humans are social creatures. Your brain is wired to mirror the emotions, language, and behaviors of those around you. Spend time with negative, cynical voices, and you start to think smaller. Surround yourself with optimistic, ambitious voices, and you naturally reach higher. This is not just theory, it's daily reality. The moods and mindsets of those closest to you seep into your own, like ink into water. That's why mastering the 80-20 principle in relationships may be the single biggest lever for transforming your life. Start by asking, who are my vital few people? Out of all your connections, which handful create most of your joy, growth, and encouragement? These are the friends, mentors, or loved ones who energize you, who believe in your potential, who challenge you to rise. Now ask, who are my trivial many? The people who drain your energy, discourage your dreams, or constantly pull you into drama. When you identify these groups, you see how profoundly relationships follow the 80-20 rule. A small number of people create most of your happiness and momentum. Another small number can cause most of your stress. Consider Michael, an entrepreneur who struggled for years. He worked hard, but always seemed stuck. One day, he realized that much of his discouragement came from the company he kept, friends who mocked his ambitions and urged him to be realistic. Their influence made him doubt himself. He made a courageous choice. He limited time with them and instead joined a mastermind group of other entrepreneurs. Their support, Ideas and encouragement reignited his drive. Within 2 years, his business flourished. What changed? Not his talent, but his relationships. This doesn't mean cutting people out harshly. It means recognizing where your energy is best invested. Some relationships thrive with more attention. Others need healthy boundaries. A few may need gentle release. It's not about arrogance. It's about alignment. You are writing the story of your life, and not everyone is meant to stay for every chapter. Mentorship is another vital part of relationships. A mentor compresses decades into days, showing you shortcuts and warning you of pitfalls. One conversation with the right guide can save you years of trial and error. If you don't currently have a mentor, look around. Who is living a version of life you aspire to? Reach out with humility and curiosity. Even if they don't become a formal mentor, studying their habits, words, and decisions can serve as a guide. Peer groups also matter. You need people walking alongside you who share your values and goals. Their progress inspires yours. Their struggles remind you you're not alone, and their feedback sharpens you. This is why communities, whether in person or online, are so powerful. They create accountability and encouragement that carry you through tough seasons. On the flip side, be mindful of toxic relationships. If someone constantly criticizes, manipulates, or belittles you, the cost to your energy and self-esteem is enormous. The 80-20 principle reminds us, a small number of toxic voices can cause most of your emotional pain. Sometimes the bravest act is to step back, to set boundaries, or to walk away. Doing so isn't selfish, it's self-respect. Here's a practice to try. Make a relationship audit. On one page, write the names of the 10 people you interact with most. Next to each, note how you feel after spending time with them. Energized or drained, hopeful or discouraged, inspired or indifferent. Then ask yourself, how can I spend more time with those who lift me and less with those who drag me down? This simple awareness can radically shift your trajectory. Also remember, relationships are two-way. If you want supportive, uplifting connections, you must also be that person for others. Celebrate their wins, listen deeply, encourage their dreams. Be the kind of friend or partner who multiplies energy instead of draining it. When you give that kind of value, you naturally attract the right people into your circle. Let's ground this with another story. Hannah, a young professional, often felt isolated at work. She decided to create a small lunchtime group where colleagues could share goals and struggles. Over time, that group became a tight-knit circle that encouraged each other's growth. Promotions, projects, and opportunities flowed through those relationships. What started as a small act of connection turned into a powerful network of support. Relationships also tie into legacy. At the end of life, people rarely say they wish they'd worked more hours. They say they wish they'd spent more time with loved ones, forgiven sooner, and invested in relationships that mattered. So while career, habits, and focus are crucial, never forget that the ultimate measure of a good life is often the depth of your connections. The 80-20 principle shows us that most of your joy, meaning, and resilience will come from a small number of relationships. Protect and nurture them. Surround yourself with people who remind you of your potential, who call out the best in you, who stand with you in both triumph and trial. And just as importantly, become that person for others. When you align your relationships with your vision, you stop walking alone. You gain allies, guides, and companions who make the journey not only easier, but richer. And you discover that success is sweeter when it's shared. By now, you've explored nearly every dimension of the 80-20 principle: your mindset, your priorities, your habits, your focus, your environment, and your relationships. Each layer has shown you how a small number of choices, actions, or people can generate the majority of your results and fulfillment. But the journey isn't complete until you integrate all of these into a single, balanced life. Because what good is productivity if it costs you your health? What good is achievement if it isolates you from family or drains your joy? The final step is harmony, aligning your vital few across every area of your life, so that success doesn't just look good on the outside, but feels whole on the inside. Balance doesn't mean equal. You don't need to divide your hours perfectly among work, health, relationships, and growth. Life isn't a pie chart where each slice must be the same size. Balance means congruence. It means the areas that matter most to you receive the attention and energy they deserve. Sometimes career will require more focus. Other times, family will. The key is to know your vital few in each domain and let them guide your choices. Let's start with work. You've already seen how a small fraction of your tasks produce most of your results. Apply this insight consistently. Identify the projects that truly move the needle and give them your best energy. Delegate or eliminate the rest. This not only improves your career outcomes, but frees time for other areas of life that matter. Now, health. Your well-being underpins everything else. Without it, even the greatest achievements feel hollow. Here, too, the 80-20 principle applies. A few simple practices: regular movement, nourishing foods, quality sleep, hydration, create the majority of health benefits. You don't need an extreme fitness plan or a perfect diet. Focus on the basics that deliver the greatest return, and your energy and resilience will rise. Relationships also deserve intentional attention. Out of all your social connections, a handful give you most of your joy and support. Prioritize time with those people. Put them on your calendar as seriously as you would a work meeting. Small rituals, a weekly dinner, a daily check-in, compound into deep bonds over time. This is how you build a life rich, not just in accomplishments, but in love. Personal growth is another domain. You don't need to master every skill or read every book. Choose a few areas aligned with your goals and invest deeply there. A handful of well-chosen books, courses, or mentors can transform your trajectory more than 1,000 scattered efforts. Let's bring this into a story. Carlos was a high-powered executive who often worked 70-hour weeks. His health declined, his marriage strained, and he felt constantly tired. Then he learned to apply the 80-20 principle holistically. At work, he focused on the two projects that drove most revenue. At home, he prioritized a weekly date night with his spouse and daily walks with his kids. For health, he focused on sleep and walking instead of an extreme workout plan. Within a year, he not only advanced his career, but also felt healthier and closer to his family than ever. The secret wasn't working harder, it was balancing the vital few across his entire life. Integration also means aligning your daily routines with your deeper values. Ask yourself, what truly matters to me? Is it freedom, contribution, connection, creativity? Then shape your habits, environment, and focus so they reflect those values. When your outer actions match your inner compass, life feels coherent instead of fragmented. Here's a practical exercise. Take out a sheet of paper and divide it into 4 areas: work, health, relationships, and growth. Under each, write the 2 or 3 activities that give you the greatest return. These are your vital few in each domain. Now look at your weekly calendar. Do these activities actually dominate your time? If not, adjust, create boundaries, redesign routines, shift priorities until your calendar reflects your values. Integration also requires rest. In a world that glorifies busyness, rest often feels like laziness. But rest is not the opposite of productivity. It's part of it. The most successful performers, athletes, artists, entrepreneurs, understand the rhythm of effort and recovery. Without rest, you burn out and lose clarity. With it, you sustain excellence for the long haul. Rest may mean sleep, play, solitude, or spiritual renewal. Whatever it is for you, honor it as part of your 80-20 strategy. Another piece of integration is gratitude. It's easy to focus so much on improvement that you overlook what's already good. But gratitude grounds you, reminding you that success is not only about chasing more, but also appreciating what you have. Try starting or ending each day by naming 3 things you're grateful for. Over time, this rewires your brain toward joy and contentment. The beauty of integrating the 80-20 principle across life is that it creates harmony. You're no longer sprinting in one area while stumbling in another. You're walking steadily, confidently, in alignment. You feel lighter because you're not dragging unnecessary weight. You feel clearer because your time and energy are directed by purpose. You feel freer because you've chosen quality over quantity. Remember, the goal is not perfection. Life will always have seasons of imbalance. Sometimes work demands more, sometimes family does. What matters is that you remain conscious, always returning to your vital few, always adjusting so that the core areas of your life stay nourished. At the end of the day, integration is about wholeness. It's about designing a life where success is not confined to one domain, but expressed across all: your career, your health, your relationships, your inner growth. This is the full promise of the 80-20 principle. Not just achieving more with less, but living better with less. Less noise, less clutter, less distraction, so that what remains is rich, meaningful, and deeply yours. You've now walked through the landscapes of priorities, focus, strengths, environments, and relationships, and you've seen how the 80-20 principle keeps revealing itself as a universal law. But before we close, there's one more element to explore: how you keep this principle alive, day after day, year after year. Because knowledge without continuity fades. Real transformation happens when the 80-20 mindset becomes not just something you try for a season, but something you carry as a way of life. Think of it like planting a tree. In the beginning, the seed needs protection and care. Later, it becomes stronger, capable of withstanding storms. But even then, it still requires water and light to thrive. The 80-20 principle is similar. At first, you apply it to 1 or 2 areas. Over time, it becomes your default lens, shaping the way you see choices, opportunities, and challenges. The goal of this final section is to help you root it so deeply that it becomes part of who you are. The first key is reflection. Life moves fast, and without pause, you slip back into busyness. Reflection slows you down long enough to ask, where did I spend my energy this week? What actually produced results? What drained me without return? These questions bring the principle from theory into practice. Set aside a weekly review, even 10 minutes, to identify your vital few and adjust accordingly. Journaling is a powerful tool here. When you write down your patterns, you see them more clearly. You notice that one client produces most of your income, or that one hobby brings most of your joy. You see that certain habits waste hours, while others fuel progress. Writing it down transforms vague impressions into actionable insights. The second key is ritual. Habits aren't built on inspiration alone. They're built on routines that anchor them. Choose 1 or 2 anchor practices that keep you aligned with 80-20 living. It might be starting each morning by writing your top 3 priorities. It might be doing a Sunday night planning session. It might be setting boundaries with notifications after dinner. These rituals serve as rails that guide your train of attention, keeping you on track even when motivation dips. The third key is simplicity. Complexity is the enemy of sustainability. The more complicated your system, the more likely you abandon it. Instead, keep your 80-20 practice simple. Ask yourself daily, what few things matter most today? Then do them first. If you achieve nothing else, those few actions still move the needle. That simplicity makes the principle a lifelong companion rather than a temporary tactic. Let's return to stories. Consider Alex, a busy parent balancing work and family. He often felt overwhelmed, scattered, guilty for never doing enough. Then he began a nightly ritual of writing down 3 wins and 3 priorities for the next day. Over time, he noticed that the wins almost always came from the same few activities: time with kids, meaningful progress at work, exercise. By focusing his energy there, he not only became more productive, but also more fulfilled. The ritual was simple, but the impact profound. Another story. Priya, a university student, tried dozens of productivity systems but always burned out. Then she asked herself, what's the 20% of study methods that actually help me remember? She realized it was teaching concepts to friends. So she built her study routine around peer sessions instead of endless highlighting. She studied less, but learned more. Years later, she still uses that approach in her career, focusing on what works rather than chasing every new method. The fourth key is resilience. Life will test you. Distractions, crises, and setbacks will pull you away. That's inevitable. The question is not whether you'll drift, but how quickly you'll return. When you notice yourself caught in the trivial many, scrolling for hours, saying yes to everything, drowning in noise, don't beat yourself up. Smile, reset, and come back to your vital few. Each return strengthens your resilience. Over time, you spend less time drifting and more time aligned. The final key is legacy. Ask yourself, how do I want to be remembered? At the end of life, what will my vital few be? Rarely do people recall the endless emails or late nights at the office. They remember the relationships, the contributions, the moments of presence. Legacy thinking brings clarity to the present. It helps you cut noise and invest in what will truly matter when the noise is gone. So, as you move forward, let this principle not just shape your productivity, but your entire philosophy. It's not about cramming more into your days. It's about filling your days with what counts. It's not about chasing every opportunity. It's about seizing the right ones. It's not about perfection. It's about alignment. And here's the beautiful part. Once the 80-20 principle becomes part of you, life feels lighter. You stop carrying unnecessary burdens. You stop apologizing for not doing it all. You stand rooted in the confidence that you are doing what matters most. And that is enough. You've walked through the full journey of the 80-20 principle, piece by piece, understanding how a small fraction of your actions, habits, and relationships create the majority of your results, joy, and fulfillment. You've seen how clarity of priorities replaces chaos, how habits and focus turn intentions into reality, how your environment and relationships lift or limit you, and how integration creates balance across every part of life. Now, it's time to pause, slow down, and let it all settle. Imagine your life as a canvas. For years, you may have been splashing colors everywhere, filling it with noise and clutter. The 80-20 principle invites you to step back, dip your brush in only the richest shades, and paint with intention. Suddenly, the picture is clearer, more vivid, more meaningful. This isn't about doing more, it's about doing less, better. Less distraction, more focus, less obligation, more alignment, less chasing, more choosing. And in that simplicity, you discover freedom. You find the space to breathe, to love, to create, to grow. You begin to see that the real wealth of life isn't found in endless activity, but in the quality of the moments you cultivate. As you move forward, carry this question with you. What are the few things that, if I honor them daily, make everything else easier or irrelevant? Write them down, protect them, build your days around them. Let them guide your choices. These are your vital few. They will become your compass when life feels overwhelming. Remember, you don't have to get it perfect. You'll drift at times, pulled by the trivial many. That's human. But each time you notice and return, you grow stronger. Over weeks and months, the principle will shift from an idea you practice to a way of seeing the world, a rhythm you live by. So breathe deep. Feel the weight of unnecessary burdens sliding off your shoulders. Step lighter, clearer, freer. You now hold the lens that helps you achieve more with less, not just in work, but in health, in love, in every corner of your life. And if these words resonated with you, don't keep them to yourself. Share this journey with someone you care about. Let's spread the mindset of clarity, focus, and balance wider, because the world doesn't need more noise. It needs more people living with intention. Thank you for walking this path. Stay inspired, stay intentional, and keep choosing your vital few. The transformation begins not someday, but right now, with your next choice.